Ladies and gentlemen, the United Kingdom just elected a meme. And that meme is none other than your boy himself, Boris Johnson. It was, in many ways, a long time coming. A very long time coming. Boris Johnson has long been tipped to have become a future Prime Minister, and lo and behold, he actually did it. The absolute mad lad. Considering all the trials, tribulations, the attempts by his own party to stop him from becoming leader of the country. They already did it once before with Gove stabbing him in the back and allowing Theresa May become Prime Minister way back in 2016, I believe, maybe even earlier. Finally, he has got his revenge. He has succeeded in emulating his hero, Winston Churchill, and has finally become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Now, I do have some reservations, but I also have some optimism about this as well. I am not a Tory. I have never voted Conservative in my life, nor will I probably ever vote Conservative, but I am happy that Boris, out of all these people, is the Prime Minister. Let's not beat around the bush here. Boris is pretty much like most of them. I've said so myself in a video about him a couple of weeks ago. He is no different to them when it comes to careerism. Perhaps the only difference is how he goes about it. Whereas the others generally are conservatives and your typical neocons, maybe neo-libs, Boris does seem to have a slight populist bent and seems to go with things like that as opposed to, strictly speaking, being another conservative type. But of course, it all depends on what his cabinet is, and so far, his cabinet seems pretty interesting. Okay, it's not quite everybody's wildest dreams, but it could have been worse. Sajid Javid as Chancellor, Priti Patel's in there, Jacob Rees-Mogg is also in the cabinet, Dominic Raab is in the cabinet. Some very interesting choices, but also some really weird choices, like Michael Gove is apparently in there as well, Amber Rudd, mostly a mix of wets and non-wets, although it seems to veer on the non-wet side of things, which is good. We've seen a lot of people on the left complaining about the representation. No, it's not what you think, because it doesn't matter that perhaps people of colour are overrepresented in this. It doesn't matter that they've got maybe slightly underrepresented amount of women, but nonetheless a high amount of women. They're just not good enough. They're the wrong kind of BAMEs. They're the wrong kind of minorities because they're conservatives. And we all know that diversity is only good when the person is dark enough. Also, they're left wing. And it doesn't matter how many minorities the conservatives have in their party. According to Kahindi Andrews, Tory racism will always be there. Yeah, I wonder how Labour's doing on that front. Oh dear. Oh. I think it's pretty clear to see that the left in this country, and perhaps possibly even the world, don't really care about diversity, at least diversity of thought, because if they really did care about diversity and representation, then they wouldn't really care that Priti Patel, Sajid Javid, all these other people are in Boris Johnson's cabinet. They would be happy that somebody who isn't white got a job. Surely, they're not happy, because it's not the right kind of minority. They're Uncle Toms, but they're just not saying it in this country because it's generally not a saying that we use. They can't call them chalk ices, or bananas, or anything else like that, can they? Because that would be racist, wouldn't it? There's also been this attempt to push this narrative that this is the most hard-right government we've ever seen. The alt-right has taken over the country and are going to lay waste to social services, the public sector, even though they've already done so with the least right-wing governments that we've ever seen, who were at that current time also the most right-wing governments we've ever seen, even though they're just crony capitalists, and that's what crony capitalists do, and Labour would have done the exact same thing, and the Liberal Democrats would have done the same thing, but it's not good enough to label these people as anything as what they are. But we can't say that because that would be admitting the truth, so it is the most hard-right government ever. Yeah, a bunch of libertarians, neocons, classical liberals, conservatives with a small c. Yeah, that's the most hard-right government we've ever had in this country, ever. It's a second coming of Oswald Mosley's black shirts, ladies and gentlemen. Watch as Boris Johnson dons black, puts on a white belt, and laps as a second coming of Hitler. But the salt, the salt, it was good. In small quantities, but it was good. So lads, get your mining equipment ready, because we're gonna mine some salt.
Boris is misogynist, racist, bigot, and has no mandate to be PM. People like him deserve disciplinary action, not congratulations for success of the highest kind. Hashtag not my PM. Hashtag today, choose hope over despair and join the Green Party today for climate action, supporting refugees, standing against racism, fighting for women's rights, fighting for LGBTQIA blah 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 rights, tackling austerity. Hashtag Boris Day. Hashtag Boris Day. Hashtag not my PM. Racist, sexist, elite Etonian Boris Johnson has just been chosen by 0.2% of the population to lead this country. A group of people 97% white, 71% male, half over 65. We say fuck that. Tomorrow, support the fuck that. Tomorrow, support the Fuck Boris Street Festival in London. Hashtag not my PM. Fuck Boris and his racist, xenophobic, homophobic, pro-Brexit rhetoric. You can pre-order this shirt and stick a middle finger up at Boris while supporting youth music, helping the arts where the Tories won't. Racist, bigoted, elitist, bullying club hooligan, misogynistic, feed the rich, fuck the poor, good friend of the bankers, no deal Brexit, fascist, friend of Trump and Bannon, not in my name!
Down with this sort of thing! Careful now.
Well, dear UK, I am so sorry for your gain. We have experience in this Trump area. Wait, so here's a guide, how to survive your own British Trump. Support each other, show compassion, find a good leader, remember how evil and dangerous Trump is. Don't give up, vote him out, hashtag not my PM. Around 100,000 Tory members have inflicted on us a Prime Minister with a record of bigotry, racism, lying and incompetence. This is not democracy. This is not in my name. On top of his comments about Muslims, black people and the LGBT+, blah 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 blah, now feels like a good time to remind ourselves what our likely next Prime Minister thinks of Liverpool and the people of our city. He's a shithole, deal with it.
It's a shithole, deal with it.
Now is the time. We're doomed! Boris Johnson has won the support of fewer than 100,000 unrepresentative Conservative Party members by promising tax cuts for the richest, presenting himself as the bankers' friend, and pushing for a damaging no-deal Brexit. But he hasn't won the support of our country.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
So I guess that's why you've lost every election then, right, Jeremy?
Boris Johnson does not speak for me or for millions of other Brits. A philandering, lying, reckless individual who undermined Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe's fight for freedom and is willing to see the UK economy and society drop off a cliff with no deal Brexit. Fuck Boris Johnson, fuck Trump, fuck Brexit, fuck Katie Hopkins, fuck Farage, fuck Rees-Mogg, fuck all the toxic, nationalistic, elitist, anti-elite, paradoxical, populist, dumbass, simplistic, reactionary, militaristic, dangerous, xenophobic bollocks. Send them away on a big lying bus.
Learn to use commas, Matt, and then I'll get back to you on that.
Boris Johnson said dude. I say dude. I will no longer be saying dude. Boris Johnson does not have a mandate from the British people. I refuse to recognise a PM with no mandate, and I'm ashamed of what the world will be thinking of us right now. A racist, homophobic, aggressive liar. This is what the rest of the world can see.
No, the leftists did, but we didn't.
Radlet Labour. Boris Johnson has been elected PM by fewer than 0.25% of the population.
Gordon Brown! I think everybody here gets the message. Lots of salt. Now, there was plenty of people there saying that they would love to just leave. Well, unfortunately for us, they will not leave the country because they know that where they are is better than any other alternative. And also, I don't think most of them, much like other British people, would bother to even learn a new language, to live abroad elsewhere, or anything like that. They would much rather stay here because they're cowards and they're not going to practice what they preach. They're not going to put the money where their mouth is. What about democracy? How is this a piss take of democracy? Well, you see, in the UK, if a Prime Minister resigns, there is not a general election called. I guess technically one could be called if the person who becomes a leader of party, because we do not vote for a person, we vote for a party, and they have 5 years in office before we have another election. Now, I don't like it, personally. I do not think that there should not be one. I think there should be a general election after every resignation. It would cause chaos. It would be the downfall of a lot of governments and be very stop-start. But I do really believe that it would create a lot of change. I think that would make governments try and make better decisions, try not to mess up a lot, I think. But that's neither here nor there. The problem with it is the hypocrisy, because it wasn't too long ago, back in, must have been 2007, 2018, that Gordon Brown found himself in the exact same position as Boris Johnson. In fact, I do believe that Blair personally wanted him to succeed him. I think there was some kind of deal arranged, maybe a gentleman's agreement, not an actual agreement, no contract or anything, where he would succeed Blair because Gordon always wanted to be leader of Labour and to become Prime Minister, and I guess Blair was like, sure, after me. And Boris Johnson, yes, is also a hypocrite because he too said very similar statements to what all these idiots are saying about him. And that's the thing, both sides are hypocrites when it comes to this issue, because none of these parties, whether it be the Green Party, whether it be the Conservatives, Labour, the Liberal Democrats, none of these people would dare even entertain the notion that it should be compulsory to have a general election after every resignation of a prime minister. They just wouldn't do it because they know that they would lose that election. They can't risk it. They're all just politicking. They're all just making up rhetoric to push onto their supporters and any neutrals out there. They know damn well that it's not. When you see Jeremy Corbyn say that about 100,000 number, it's hypocritical because he was also one of Labour's 100,000 people who voted Gordon Brown in. The future, what is there really? Well, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen now. All we have to do is wait and see what will happen. In his opening speech outside of 10 Downing Street, Boris made a lot of promises to the country in regards to industry, the economy, Brexit, and it remains to be seen if any of those promises will actually be carried out. I think the comparisons to Trump are kind of unfounded because he's actually not really like Trump at all. He's not at all. He's basically a more eccentric version of an establishment conservative. That's pretty much what he is. He just is intelligent enough to pander using a populist message. Life will go on. Here's to another 5 years, I guess, or however long it's going to take until the next general election. All I know is this, that the reason Jeremy Corbyn has had a bit of a meltdown is because he now knows that he's not going to win the next general election because he's unelectable unless the Tories manage to find somebody even more unelectable than him, which is basically any of the worst wets imaginable. And with that, the video is over. I would basically end up predicting what would happen, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make myself look silly. So anyway, until next time, guys, it's been your boy. Like and share the video. Please do comment and have some fun down there, guys. And until next time, I'll see you later.